I just had the opportunity to interview a real wizard. He's also one of my best friends. His name is Amarnath. And in this video, it's really cool because what is wizardry? What is magic? What are crystals? What is sound healing? How does sound healing even actually work? How does magic actually work? These are all questions that people have, questions that I have had over the years. And it's really cool because in this interview, you will get to hear some of those answers coming from somebody who's been working with magic their whole life. I admit, the lighting is bad, the sound is bad, but the content is perfect. Here you go. What is magic, and how does the inner and the outer world, our inner worlds and the outer worlds, how is that the core of what magic is?
Well, magic is the ability to connect to a higher frequency and also the ability to control your inner state and your outer state. How they relate is that your inner state is your awareness, and that awareness is manifestation source. And so art is actually one of these big magical tools because it shows you in real time that awareness is manifestation source. You think of the scene, and then it's coming out of your hand movements, and then everybody else can see it. Yeah. And so it's this translation from the inner to the outer. Yeah. But the magic itself is realizing that you have power to affect the state, the inner state of everything, everywhere. Mm-hmm. And that we're all interconnected, interweaving threads of this tapestry, and that we're all quantum entangled. Yeah. And it's like you think of somebody and then they suddenly call you, or all these synchronicities are there to show us that this is a real woven tapestry, and that our interconnectedness is real.
Yes. Yeah, it's almost like an author that I really appreciate, his name is Paul Levy. He talks about this as a waking dream. And even though it feels like, oh, this is all solid and everything, this is really an interconnected waking dream that we are part of. And we're all affecting it by our thoughts. Even if you're somebody who doesn't believe in magic at all, you still are using magic. You know, it's because it's your belief. Whatever our beliefs are is what our reality becomes. And so the more and more you believe in magic, if you start by just believing it's real, then you will find ways that magic starts to influence you and the world around you. One of the things that I think Amarnath is most amazing at, crystal, I don't know, I'd call you a crystal master. There's nobody I know on this planet that I feel like knows and has such a deep relationship with crystals as Amarnath. And so I was going to ask you, how are crystals a major technology for bringing heaven to earth?
That's a beautiful question. So crystals are related to our computer technology. You know, the silicon chip is what made the computer revolution, and the crystals are very programmable, and they're like the organs or the mind, or this like program within the earth. And one of the reasons they can be so incredibly powerful for healing is that on a microscopic quantum level, or on an electrical level, on an atomic level, nothing ever touches. All of the atoms have electrons in fields, and they're all bouncing around each other, but the force fields are actually coming up against each other instead of touching. So like when it seems like you're touching the couch or your hand, but nothing is actually really touching with these force fields, except for crystals. Crystals are on that electron and atom level actually matriced, and so they're actually connected in a structure, unlike all the other matter around. And so they help us to stop. We're all just wiggling electrons and atoms, but it stops us from doing that wiggle on a smallest scale when we come in contact with something that's actually matriced like that, like a crystal. And crystals are so important because humans are full of crystals as well. We have crystals in our bodies, and one of the most important is hydroxyapatite, which surrounds the pineal gland. And the hydroxyapatite is what gets calcified or regulates our consciousness for the pineal to be able to open and get into those DMP structures.
How could just a normal person today who wants to start working with crystals but doesn't really know where to start, how could they start working with crystals, like level 1, level 2?
So the first level to crystals is that crystals are millions of years old, and so they operate on a different physiological time scale than us. And so to work with crystals, you have to slow down. Yeah, so you hold a crystal. Once you slow down, you probably have to hold it for 5 or 10 minutes before you fully start to understand the energy in it. And if you can slow down like that holding the crystal, then you can really understand their frequency and energy much better.
And is that slowing down like having to do with slowing down your thoughts?
Yeah, slowing down thought gets you more present, but it's also slowing down your frequency and your energy. And then the other part to working with crystals is that they're conduits for light very powerfully, and quartz, even if it looks completely clear, has what's called a C-axis, which is like, it's almost like wood has a grain that runs a certain way in it. And the crystals have these like crystalline filaments that run a certain direction in the crystal. And so to naturally align with that, and when you're sending the light through, it gets channeled through this optic. And some of them have fiber optic properties that also will do different ways that they channel light through them. But we as healers can produce a 5-dimensional self-referential helix, kind of a scalar energy, is what life forms are naturally producing. And that scalar energy goes through the crystal and gets amplified.
Very cool. Yeah. Very cool. And I think, yeah, I like what you just said, like the very first thing you can do if you want to work with crystals, because so many people out there who know that heaven is arriving to earth, and even if we don't know what that actually means yet, we know it's happening. And we have crystals, and we're like, these are allies, but what do I do with them? Even me, I have this one really beautiful crystal, and it's been hard for me to know how exactly do I work with this crystal. But what you said is super helpful, just slowing down my frequency, because crystals are millions of years old, and these are like beings that are like moving so slowly, and so in order to work with them and connect with them as the conscious beings they are, we need to kind of slow down and meet them halfway. Another thing that you are really proficient at and spend a lot of your time doing that I know is sound healing. Amarnath plays the didgeridoo, he plays the handpan, he works with sound in many different ways. You work with sound with the crystals when you're doing Manu Makshaya. How can sound heal you?
So everything in the whole universe is frequency. And on the quantum, they talk about light being both a wave and a particle. And so sound is getting into creating these waves that make all of the particles go in that wave motion. And so when your particles start to act as that oscillating wave, then that's when the principle of light gets activated. And so the light work, through crystals or through our energy or through sound, it's all the same thing really. It's just being activated in different ways. And when we have disease in our body, the disease is it's like a frequency that is dampening our natural ability to oscillate like that. And so the sound can enliven any parts that have that sort of dead, dampened energy to them. And they say that the pyramids were built through the sound, and that Thoth made the emerald tablets through sound. There's talk of the ancient monks of Tibet making sound create structures. So throughout all of these creation myths, sound has been modulated just the right ways to affect physical reality. It's almost like they're all interlinked. Like when you have a certain number of beats per minute or pulses, it makes these different frequencies. And there's like Schumann resonance very slow, like 7.83 hertz. And then if you get faster, we get into all these different resonances, and then the range of hearing. And then if you multiply that like times itself, if you square root all of the hearing spectrum, then you get the visible spectrum, and the visible spectrum is a band that's vibrating much faster. There's vibrations, everything we see, and so vibration isn't just we separate out that like hearing and seeing are such different phenomena and all the sensory things, but really they're all just different slices of frequency within reality around us, and each of our senses is tapping into those little bits of frequency and putting it together.
Anybody who has worked with psychedelics, I feel like with psychedelics, how psychedelics help us is they do help us slow down so that we can feel the other frequencies that we're not usually vibrating in. And if you're with psychedelics, like mushrooms, and then you experience sound healing from a crystal bowl or a didgeridoo, you're much more aware of the sound and how it affects you and how it can just bring images. It can send you to other planets. I mean, you talk a little bit about working with extraterrestrials. I've worked with extraterrestrials. I've met them. I've talked about this in other videos. Some people, when they hear this, they're just like, "Oh, that's crazy. It can't be true." And for me, and probably for you too, it's just such a normal part of our existence that it's just like, it's like you forget what it might be like. How have some of these technologies come through? Whether beings from other dimensions or other beings from other planets.
I talk about there's extraterrestrials, the aliens, but then there's a word that I haven't heard anyone else use, but it's aterrestrials. And aterrestrials are the beings that don't dwell on planets at all. And so they could either be beings that evolved past their home world and they're living in giant ships now, they would be aterrestrial, or beings that are actually such different life forms that they can live in the vacuum of space somehow, as
or within
or
a crystal
or
a rock. Or
these are the aterrestrial beings, and it's aterrestrial interdimensional beings that gave me the blueprint for how to build Mani Mokshaya and how to begin transitioning the energy field to the quantum fractal one.
One of the things I talk about a lot is heaven on earth. And whether or not people see it or not, it's arriving. Part of the challenge for the light workers is to kind of help paint the picture of what is actually happening behind the scenes, even though it's not, talked about in the media and not normalized. Like heaven is arriving. It is here already, but it is like we are going to be slowly unwrapping it over the next 100,000 millions of years. I mean, it's never going to really stop, but it's like, we're at the beginning stages, and for most people, you can't even tell there's a difference. As heaven on earth continues to take hold, what role do you see yourself playing?
That's a fun question. It changes and morphs with time, but I feel my role is one of I'm becoming more and more of a storyteller, and someone that tells the stories that lead us back home to ourselves. And I feel that there's that quote that the pen is mightier than the sword, and I believe that to be very true on deeper and deeper levels the more you understand it. And I think that bringing out sacred media is one of the most powerful things as a creator being and as an influencer of the other beings on the planet that we can do.
Yeah. And
that if we can awaken the spirits and minds and hearts of people so deeply that they can't be manipulated into these war agendas and things anymore, then that's how we really get there, to the power of the collective altogether, instead of the few that have ensnared humanity in this darker age.
Yes. The reality that we've been in for hundreds, thousands of years, I don't know, like the few are ensnaring the whole in a very, very limited reality. But I think one thing that I'm starting to see is and I've seen it's been a really freeing thing to come to realization, is this place that we've been in, this darkness, where we have been ensnared and enslaved and kind of like energy sucked off of living in not real freedom, is actually been a part of us building up to what we are about to give birth to. Like, it's been a very important place. It's like we've had to have this time of being in the darkness to be able to uncover the technologies that we are going to use as we like build heaven on earth, far into the future, and so but we are just starting to come out of that, and so it's going to be an interesting dance, and I think the more we can be playful and have fun, the better, because it doesn't have to be rushed. It's not going to be rushed. It's going to be taken slow. This can be taken many lifetimes, but we may even learn to be able to carry our memories from lifetime to lifetime in ways that we haven't been able to do now. So we're going to be learning a lot of new technologies.
Absolutely. We can't bypass our shadow individually or collectively.
Yeah.
That never works. And so some people have been saying that they feel like the world is getting more and more messed up, and that we're going backwards, and that things are getting worse. But that's not what I truly see. Looking at history, there were people, the people used to love for sport just watching the beheadings out in the court and the heads roll and stuff, and people aren't. There's many ways in which society has refined and evolved its nature, but everything has to get exposed, and so it's not getting worse. It's getting uncovered. It's getting exposed. The Band-Aid's getting ripped off for the wound to be looked at and tended. It's happened. I really do see the incredible progress that we're making. Sometimes it's slower than a lot of us wanted, but it's slow because we're doing it thoroughly. We're doing it for real, and we're really doing the excavation of what it means to be together as a humanity.
Amarnath was born into a very different reality than most people. Well, why don't you say it? Because I'm going to mess it up.
I was born in Fairfield, Iowa, which is it's a transcendental meditation community, and so my parents were meditating before I was born and during my whole process of coming through, and I was initiated into meditation at age 5 and grew up with Ayurveda and learning about Vedic knowledge and stuff.
And most of your life you spent in Fairfield, Iowa, at the Maharishi University, or the community that exists around it, around people who spent a lot of time in meditation, deeply believing in magic, knowing that magic is real. And in some ways, you didn't really know that this world existed where people don't believe in magic and don't meditate, and that's not just a part of their existence. So for you, coming into this reality where people are just like, magic isn't real, was kind of a shock to your system.
Oh, definitely. I was sheltered, and I thought that everybody was meditating twice a day and stuff, because that's what was happening where I was growing up. But I left home at 15 to go to art school, and that was like me completely shifting my worldview into a whole different universe. And it felt really good to learn about all the different ways of life and being. And I got there, and my roommate was so different than me, and we just learned so much from each other. And it's really beautiful to get out and realize that what I had was special in a way, but it was also I was also realizing that there's so many different ways to get there. There's so many different ways to investigate what it means to be inside of yourself.
And now, I mean, that was art school. That was many years ago. What is your relationship to art now?
Well, it changes over the years and times. Sometimes I paint a lot, and other times I don't paint much, and it all just depends on what's around me and what is coming through me. And but I've gone from originally in art school, I was very traditional, and I believed in only painting from life, and even using photo reference was cheating to me. And then I started using some photo reference, and because I wanted to get higher levels of detail and realism and stuff, and I realized that no, using photo reference isn't cheating. It brings through just a little more information, and then but I thought that anyone that uses a projector, that's the line. That's got to be where it's cheating for art, And then then I started doing some of that too. I've experimented with using projection for some of the blocking in for certain pieces, and you still have to paint the whole thing. It absolutely wasn't cheating. And now I've even explored things like, then suddenly, okay, well, AI, that's got to be cheating. Like, that's not even doing anything. It's just typing in something. And I've even played with that. So I've gone from very strict thinking, oh, even using a photo reference makes it like not art in a way, it's cheating, to even using AI, using 3D models, like exploring digital drawing. And I've let myself not be so rigid on my thinking of like what is and isn't art.
Yeah.
And now one of my passion projects is working on a story that'll start as a graphic novel and become a film, and I'm using 3D graphics and my photography and digital painting and all these different techniques together to create this world building that I'm doing for it. And so my art has changed forms a lot. Sometimes it'll even be sound healing instead of painting, instead of being visual at all. And I kind of like the block system where you go really deep into something and just go for it. And then after you've gone in that container for a while, then allowing something else to surface and going into that. And
yeah,
I don't like to limit what art is even, or what I should be doing.
Right. Yeah. I mean, even just tying everything to the back to the beginning, how true magic is the inner and the outer, or making the inner the outer and the outer the inner, is the core understanding of magic and how magic works. But how that relates to art and even AI today, like I've felt some of the same ways when it comes to art, and like AI. I'm like, oh, I don't know, that's not really real art. But I've learned that so much how AI and ChatGPT can be so helpful is that I have so much art on the inside and words and messages that need to be expressed that have to do with heaven on earth, and how do we bring it and getting people to actually understand what I'm actually talking about and what we're talking about and what we're going to be doing and what that's going to look like. And I've found when you have something of substance inside of you, and you may not have the tools or the abilities to kind of move your hands in a way to make those things come out, you can use AI to help express those inner worlds on the outer world. And that's one of the ways that I'm feeling like it's so helpful. It's like, there's so much I have to share, and I used to have to think, oh, I have to get a graphic designer or an artist to draw this idea that, that I can't explain, and that's going to cost me $300, and who knows if that's going to even go anywhere. Well, now I can just tell AI to draw this picture, and it freaking nails it almost every time. I can hardly believe how proficient it is at communicating these ideas.
For AI, it's more like you're a director, and so I feel like where it's problematic is for people to claim that they're an artist and then put just something that AI made, and then not even say that it is. I've seen friends like sort of insinuate that it's their painting or different things like that, and that's where the dishonesty and strangeness comes in. But in a way, AI is taking us to this transpersonal, which is something that plant medicine teaches, is how to alchemize the ego in such a way that it's in this more of a collective container for everybody. Mm-hmm. And AI is taking all of the knowledge, and sure, it's breaking down copyrights and ownership and individuality, but in a way it's allowing humanity to put it all into a melting pot and for this new thing to be born. And it's more like being a director, like for Star Wars, everyone knows, oh, that's George Lucas. But George Lucas didn't make the puppets, that was Jim Henson. Or he didn't it wasn't his art necessarily, but he directed the whole thing to come together. Yeah. And that's what it's like working with AI, where it's like, no, you didn't make the images, but you directed this vision to come together, which is unique from your brain.
That's an amazing analogy, and it has been so great to hang out here today on the Wizard and I show, or whatever it's going to be called. Thank you so much, Amarnath, for being here and for taking part in this interview. And if you have more questions for Amarnath, or if you want to try Mani Mokshaya, or if you want to learn more about Mani Mokshaya or any of the work that Amarnath does, you can find out all his information and how to get in contact with him in the comments of this video. Thank you so much, and we will see you next time.